I need to pull
down
my window. I've got like a super big glare. I'm like, how relaxed can we be? It seems like my husband's busy and I still have a crying baby. Can I like hold her while we do our after podcast? Okay, let me go grab her.
Absolutely. Yeah, please do. Aww. Tender topic, important topic, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
She's got 20 years married. I wanted to say, that you've got a lot of what good experience under your belt, and then it's like, I don't want to say that either. But all those innuendos, right? They come alive with sexuality.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, true. Pretty much anything.
I knew Rex would like it.
What does that say about me?
You got a good person. You got a good sense of humor, is what that says.
Yeah, that's great. We won't keep her too long today. It sounds like she's.
Sure. I mean, Alexis, I don't know how candid we can be, but where did you get good information before you got married?
Yeah.
Where was there good info? Was it from your family, your mother, the class you took? What?
Yeah, honestly, I had to kind of go and seek out a lot of things and communicate a lot with Jared. It was very difficult because I come from the foster system. And so I have a lot of different parents that I could kind of talk to about
No kidding. I didn't know that about you. How sweet.
And so a lot of them had very different opinions. Some of them are religious and some of them aren't religious. And so it's interesting to kind of learn different people's perspectives in that way.
Wow.
But I think that honestly, with so many different opinions, I just kind of had to talk with Jared about it and make sure that before we got married, that was a conversation we had.
And to ask yourself, how do I feel about this, right? Yeah. What do I want? Well, who am I, Alexis, and what rings true for me?
100%.
Good for you. Gee, I love that you did some seeking. That's impressive. So many young couples do not have any conversation.
I think it helps that I work here.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Ariel, I think this is awesome that your work is really about restoring or creating, or whatever you want to say, sexual dignity for women and in the big picture of marriage. And I think that's really awesome that you're doing this work, and I love the way you present it and talk, and it's great. My first question is, one of the things I realized with my wife is we have 4 kids, and she noticed after having the first child and the second child and the third child, her desire changed a lot. Went down a little and then came way back up and then went way down and then went way back up. Do you experience that with anybody you talk to, or do you discuss that at all with your research?
I think that is so normal. I've been talking to my husband about that. I just had a baby about 8 months ago. And along with the desire shifts, I feel like there's so much change within my body that sometimes it's hard for me to feel are you still attracted to me? I've changed, right? And because I think as women, too often we put this on our bodies, right? And I loved how he put it. He's like, I love kind of going through the waves of change with you. And it keeps things new. It keeps things, and I think that's a huge part, is that kind of what we talked about at the end of the episode, is that we think of this as a one-time kind of traditional thing, but this is going to change throughout our lifetimes. And that's why we have to keep it open, right? There's going to be times when our desire between partners, the spontaneous person might become more responsive, and the responsive person might have higher desire. This changes throughout our lifetime and throughout our cycles. And I think that is a beautiful thing that can keep our sex life fresh and new and growing, and just keep the conversation open.
I mean, as a guy, I was not aware that would affect anything. The other thing that was surprising to learn was that it also affected the intensity of orgasm for her, having different children. And I wasn't aware of that. I don't think she was. We had to learn about that. Is that something else too that you address or discuss?
I maybe need to add it because it is really important to know. I think a lot of people don't recognize that not all orgasms are created equal, right? And different types of orgasms can be more intense at different where you're at, right? Like depending on where your body's at, depending on where your mind's at. And I think another thing that's important with that is like not all orgasms can be pleasant either. And so just because someone orgasmed is like, oh, cool, we made it, right? Like it really has to be focused on that person's experience. And I think that's key. Like just because their body's showing they're aroused, are they actually aroused? Just because they orgasmed, was it actually good? Could it have been more intense? And so I love that. I think that is huge because our bodies do go through changes, and there are seasons and things that can help us orgasm way more than other ways, right? And I think that's a really important thing to recognize.
My last question would be, what are some ways to discover what brings about arousal? I think you said arousal generates desire.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of there's a sequence there. Is there ways that women or men can help women discover what arouses them or helps lead to that desire?
Yes, that's such a good question. And I wish I could just be like, this is what it is and do these things, but it's different for everybody. But
what's the algorithm?
Right? Okay, like let me tell you. I think a huge thing is to look back at times where arousal and desire has occurred and kind of dig into that. What happened? Where was my mind at that point? Was I stressed, right? Like, had we been in a better partnership taking care of the kids in the house or work or whatever it is? So like kind of digging into that. And then I think a lot of it is just exploring, right? Like, especially for women, I think from a young age, we've often been taught not to be in tune with our bodies. And so, and I mean, just like a quick example, right? Like with eating disorders, even if you don't have a disorder, like these conversations around women's bodies is like, oh, I better not have that cake because I don't want to gain, right? Like we suppress our desires from a very young age. And so bringing in meditation or something to help the woman in the relationship, like really become in tune with her body and her senses. And then as you're exploring, focus on things that are like, oh, let's try this. As you become more in tune, you're going to naturally be able to start to recognize like, oh, let's lean into this a little more, right? Like, and here's a couple ideas, like reading, I'm a clean romance novel person, but like just a cute love story can totally help me recognize the little day-to-day things my husband does that I miss that are so sweet. And so just like leaning into that, like, oh, I recognize this more. So, hey, to help me move into the mood, I'm going to open up my favorite chapter, and like read it, or to recognize like, wow, once I get, I love when you touch the back of my neck. I don't know, just finding like places on your body that help move you into that arousal to desire, and also finding things that help your mind get there. I think those are the two keys. Does that help? Do you need any more ideas?
No, I'm taking notes.
Right.
So that was good. That was good.
And that may change,
yes,
right? That may always change because we're always changing. I mean, as you were talking, I kept thinking, well, that's kind of the good news of the day, right? When your husband said something so beautiful, I love going through the waves of change. Oh, it's beautiful that he said that. Because sometimes too often we talk about the monotony, right? Yeah, it can be of marriage or the predictability, but if we pay attention, things are always changing.
And I think that's key, because like leaning into the discomfort, like you talked about, Rex, like my wife, right, after having babies, maybe had better orgasms or had more desire. And I think that bringing that up in your relationship is scary, but like lean into the discomfort, because the discomfort and changing things is going to bring more desire and bring more connection. And so lean into those waves, because you're going to have a conversation, things are going to be great. And then it's going to be like, wait, why isn't this working anymore? So bring it up, talk about it, reevaluate, and just keep going with the waves, and things will just be new and good, and lean into that.
Yeah.
I love kind of exploring this like discomfort. Yeah, sorry. I was saying that I love talking about like swaying into this discomfort feeling, because I think that a lot of conversations with your partner can end up feeling like embarrassing topics or awkward topics that like I don't really want to bring that up, or like maybe my body did something that I didn't think it was going to do during sex, and now
like queefing,
what does that
queefing
mean?
women,
like,
anyone? Okay.
Yeah. And like, what are your suggestions, or what are like examples of questions that you think you could ask your partner that you can talk about these kind of topics, whether it's during sex itself or before or after? I think that a lot of people struggle with, how do I even phrase what I want to say?
That is a huge one. And at the beginning of your journey, right? Like, whether you've been married for 20, 30 years or you're newlywed, like if you haven't practiced talking about sexuality, it is hard and it feels so vulnerable and scary. And so I think one of the key things is it's okay to feel scared and it's okay to feel uncomfortable, but push through it. So like, that's my first thing, like push through it. Don't not do it because you're nervous. Even if you ask a question that's like, I don't know, like just push through. But I think there can be some really helpful ways to kind of bring it up. Like I've been thinking about our sex life and I want it to be such an amazing part of our relationship. So I'd just love to know, like, what do you like about our sex life? Or what are some things that we could do to make it better for you? And then just bringing it up, like making sure this isn't like, sex is the worst, I hate this, because that can feel so painful for the other partner, right? But like, just like, I want this to be good. Let's start talking about it. I don't know all the questions I want to ask or what, but I need some help because I want this to be good. And I know to make it good, we need to start talking about it. And I want to make a plug for my top 10 things to ask your spouse about sex,
yes.
right? Like,
I want to make a plug for that. I can't wait to get my hands
like
on that.
sometimes it's just really helpful to have like, hey, I got this free thing. Like, let's look at the questions, because it can be hard to think of your own. And then hopefully that will start the conversation and help it keep going.
Yeah. Cool.
I love that.
Awesome.
I just have one more question, if that's okay.
Of course.
Okay. My last one is, what do you recommend women do if they're actively participating in duty sex or sex driven by fear? Like, how do they get out of that cycle?
That is a hard one, because there is going to be pain. And I mean this like emotional pain, I think, for both partners in that, because one partner is probably going to feel hurt and betrayed, because it's like, I thought this was good for you, right? Like, I thought you wanted to be here. And it's not that you didn't, but like these patterns can just be really painful to bring up and can bring up a lot of sensitive feelings. And so kind of what we talked about at the beginning, Alexis, like, and at the end of my 3 tips, right? Like, humility and vulnerability are huge in this. The humility to recognize that we both have played a role in this pattern, but I'm bringing this up because I don't want it to be this way anymore. I want it to be good. And I know I've hurt you or you've hurt me. Like, I know this is painful, but I'm done pretending. I'm done pretending I orgasmed. I'm done doing this out of duty. I want to do it because I'm not afraid. And I know this is for me and you. I learned this from, traditions of my mom said, or my grandma said, like, these are things, this isn't about you. This is about traditions. And I want to break that so that we can make this a really good part of our relationship. And it's going to hurt, right? It's going to be hard. I actually, just a funny story. I recently, Batsheva Mark is actually that same educator, but she told this super funny story. So she is Jewish, and she had this like older couple she was working with, and she had never orgasmed. And so she gave her a vibrator, and she was like, I can't bring this into my marriage. Like, my husband is so staunch, like Jewish and traditional. Like, I can't do this. And then if he finds out that I'm orgasming and I've never orgasmed with him, it's going to be awful. So anyway, she finally tells him, she's like, okay, I learned how to orgasm. And he didn't talk to her for like days. And I'm sure that was awful. But then he finally came in and he was like, all right, show it to me. And so much time had come by. She's like, what are you talking about? Show me what? And he's like, show me. And she was like, they've been having the best sex. So like, be okay that it's going to be painful to change some of these traditions, and it's going to be hard. But if that commitment's there, the humility and the vulnerability, you guys can work through it, and you're going to be glad you went into the pain to get on the better side and have it be better.
I agree. You gotta let your ego out.
Yeah.
Not just in sex too, just in marriage in general. That ego will get in the way and really slow things down or make things worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that story.
Ariel,
really
you've been so generous. Thank you for this. Again, this is just like the tip of the iceberg with all the great stuff that you
so
offer. We sure appreciate it. Thanks for joining us today. Hey, do us a favor and take a few minutes to subscribe to our podcast and the Utah Marriage Commission YouTube channel, where you can watch this and every episode of the show. When you hit the like button and leave a comment, your feedback helps us improve the show. And don't forget to share this episode with a friend. You can also follow and connect with us on Instagram at Stronger Marriage Life and on Facebook at Stronger Marriage. Be sure to share with us what topics you want us to explore or what you loved about today's episode. If you want even more resources to improve your relationship connection, visit our website at strongermarriage.org, where you'll find free workshops, webinars, relationship surveys, and more. Each episode of Stronger Marriage Connection is hosted and sponsored by the Utah Marriage Commission at Utah State University. And finally, a big thanks to our producers Rex Polanis and Alexis Alcott and the team at Utah State University. And you, our audience. You make this show possible. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the Utah Marriage Commission